Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. Today we've got something really exciting to talk about because Elden Ring Nightreign just pushed out update 1.002.002. And you know what that means. New changes, new tweaks, and some bug fixes that might not look huge at first glance, but could definitely shift the way you play. Now, before we even start breaking things down, I want you to think about the way this game has been rolling out updates. Nightreign itself already dropped with a ton of anticipation. Then we got that big 1.02 patch back in late July, which added major features like duo expeditions, relic filtering, UI improvements, and stability fixes. That patch really set a new standard because it wasn't just about cleaning things up. It was about expanding how we experience the game. Now we're a little over a month later, September 10th to be exact, and From Software has rolled out another patch, version 1.002.002. At first glance, this one might feel a little smaller compared to the massive content drop we saw in 1.02, but there's actually a lot of value packed into it, especially for players who care about consistency and progression. Let's talk about one of the first things mentioned with this patch, and that's the change to Relic acquisition. If you've been running expeditions or spending time with the Small Jar Bazaar, you probably know how frustrating it can be when you're grinding and all you get are low rarity items that don't feel rewarding. Well, with this patch, the developers have increased the chances of earning high-rarity relics through expeditions and through the Small Jar Bazaar. This is huge for a couple of reasons. First, it makes those runs feel more worthwhile. Instead of going through multiple expedition sessions just to end up with a pile of things you don't need, you'll now see a higher chance of getting the kind of relics that actually matter for builds and late-game progression. Second, it keeps players more engaged because nothing kills motivation faster than feeling like your time is wasted. So with this tweak, your investment in gameplay actually feels respected. But of course, relics aren't the only focus here. The patch also touched on a handful of bug fixes that have been bothering people. Missing or incorrect audio was one of the problems mentioned, and if you've ever had that happen to you during a boss fight or an expedition, you know how immersion breaking it can be. Audio is one of those elements you don't always consciously notice when it's working, but the second it's off, the whole atmosphere collapses. Fixing that makes encounters feel more polished and keeps that eerie Nightreign mood intact. Network stability was also highlighted, which is super important for a game that now leans into cooperative expeditions with the duo mode. There's nothing worse than trying to team up with someone and having the experience fall apart because of connectivity hiccups. By tightening up network stability, the developers are ensuring that more players can actually enjoy this content the way it was intended. Now let's touch on UI and HUD issues. If you remember the 1.02 patch, it introduced new tabs, better tooltips, and more flexibility in managing relics. Those were great improvements, but sometimes new UI features also bring small unintended problems. With this patch, some of those quirks are being cleaned up. That might mean smoother menu navigation, less clutter in your interface, or fewer inconsistencies in how certain things display on screen. For players who like a clean, functional experience, this matters a lot. It's not flashy, but it's the kind of fix that adds up the more time you spend with the game. Now here's where I want to step back a little and talk about the bigger picture. When we look at an update like this, some people might say, well, it's small, it's not adding new modes, it's not a game changer. But honestly, this is the kind of patch that shows the developers are paying attention to the details. You can't just drop massive expansions every month. Sometimes it's about making sure the foundation is solid, making sure the player experience is stable, and ensuring that when you log in, you're not battling the game itself, but actually enjoying the gameplay. That's what 1.002.002 feels like. It's a polishing step that smooths out rough edges so the bigger things can stand out when they arrive. And speaking of bigger things, we can't ignore the way these patches stack together. Patch 1.02 in July added duo expeditions, and now this patch is improving stability and item rewards. Together, they make the cooperative aspect of Nightreign feel more complete. Imagine teaming up with a friend, knowing that your connection is less likely to drop, knowing that your effort has a better chance of yielding rare relics, and knowing that the menus and audio won't glitch out in the middle of the experience. It's all connected, and it's all part of shaping this evolving experience that's not just a single release, but an ongoing journey. Now let's take a moment to think about what these relic changes really mean in terms of build variety. If high-rarity relics are more accessible, then more players can experiment with new builds without feeling like the grind is a wall. That could change the meta in subtle ways. Players who might have been locked into using the same old reliable build because they didn't have access to the right relics now have a better shot at pulling the tools they need to try something fresh. That's exciting because it opens the door to more creative approaches to encounters, especially in cooperative play, where synergy between builds can make or break an expedition. Another point worth mentioning is that by improving relic drop rates and cleaning up bugs, the game becomes more inviting to new players. Someone just stepping into Nightreign today might not know the frustration older players felt with relic scarcity or weird bugs, because those issues have been smoothed over. That creates a better onboarding experience, and in turn, it keeps the player base healthier because people are more likely to stick around. It's the kind of move that builds long-term loyalty. I also want to touch on the emotional side of these fixes, because sometimes we focus so much on mechanics and forget how much this stuff impacts how we feel while playing. Picture yourself going into an expedition. You're deep in the middle of the Everdark cycle, everything's tense, and suddenly the audio just cuts or glitches. That's not just a technical bug. It's a moment that breaks your immersion and maybe even costs you focus. Fixing those issues preserves the atmosphere, and for a game like this, atmosphere is everything. That creepy, mysterious, oppressive vibe is what keeps players hooked, and the more consistent it is, the more it pulls you back in. And since we're on the subject of consistency, I've noticed that each patch so far has struck a balance between big, flashy features and necessary under-the-hood maintenance. With 1.02, we got a big content update, and now with 1.002, we've got stability and reward improvements. If this pattern continues, we could be looking at a development cycle where major updates introduce new systems, followed by smaller patches that reinforce them and smooth out the rough edges. That's honestly a smart way to keep the game fresh without overwhelming players or letting problems pile up. Of course, the question everyone has is what's next. From Software and Bandai Namco haven't detailed the roadmap beyond this, but if history is any guide, we'll probably see another substantial patch in the coming months that adds something new to the Nightreign formula. Maybe it's another mode, maybe it's more relic mechanics, maybe it's even an expansion of how the Everdark cycle works. Whatever it is, it'll be built on the foundation being laid by these smaller, quieter patches. And that's why paying attention to updates like 1.002.002 matters. They might not come with huge trailers or headlines, but they tell you how the developers are thinking and what direction the game is moving in. Now, I know some people might still be wondering whether to jump back in right now or wait for the next bigger update. Honestly, with the improvements to relic rewards and the fixes to audio, network, and UI issues, this is a great moment to hop back in if you've been taking a break. It's more rewarding to run expeditions, it's more stable to play with friends, and the general feel of the game is smoother. Sometimes that's all you need to fall back in love with a game that might have been frustrating you before. And here's something interesting to think about. As relics become more accessible, the community meta might start shifting faster. Players will post new builds, strategies will evolve, and that in itself creates fresh content and discussion. If you're part of the community, you know how exciting it is to see that wave of experimentation kick off after a patch. It makes the game feel alive in a way that static content never could. So to wrap up this long talk, Update 1.002.02 is one of those patches that's less about shocking reveals and more about laying strong bricks in the wall. Increased relic rewards, audio and UI fixes, network stability, overall polish. It's a patch that respects your time, respects your immersion, and makes the experience of playing Nightreign feel more reliable. And if you've been around gaming long enough, you know reliability is underrated until you lose it. All right, that's my full breakdown and thoughts on Elden Ring Nightreign, Update 1.002.002, released on September 10th, 2025. It's live right now across PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. I'd love to know what you think of these changes. Have you noticed the relic drop rates feeling more generous? Have the audio and UI fixes smooth things out for you? And most importantly, do you feel like this update makes the game more fun to jump back into? Let me know in the comments, because I always enjoy hearing how other players are experiencing these changes. If you've been grinding expeditions since the patch dropped, tell me what kind of relics you've been seeing. If you've been playing duo mode, let me know if the network stability feels more reliable now. This channel isn't just about me giving you information. It's about building a conversation around games we all love. So I'll be looking out for your comments. And as always, thanks for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more updates like this, make sure to stick around, because every time Elden Ring Nightreign gets a patch or a major change, I'll be here to walk you through it in detail. Until then, keep exploring, keep experimenting with those builds, and I'll see you in the next video.